Hey everyone, this is going to be a quick video explaining to you why it is that I will not buy a Cheness katana. And why it is in reality I think they are actually pretty bad swords, even for the money. Before anyone thinks that I haven't, that I don't know what I'm talking about, that I haven't handled one, I've handled actually quite a few of them. I owned one, I've handled two of them that were my former instructors, and I also handled another one that was another former instructors. And honestly, out of all the times that I've handled them, I was never impressed. Actually, in all reality, I was kind of disappointed. The reason why I was disappointed is because of this. Cheness swords, number one, are supposed to be designed by martial artists for martial artists. But in reality, they are actually, number one, they're poorly balanced. So if you have a carbon steel Iaito, for example, it's going to be way too end heavy. You can actually get, even for that price tag, a better deal buying it someplace else. And on their stainless steel Iaitos, they're way too light. So either they're too heavy or they're too light. Now I've heard some people say that, well, if you get the Oniyuri, it's a better sword to have. It's got a good balance. Well, I'd like to think that it would, because the blade is 22 to 24 inches, I don't remember exactly, and the handle is 14 inches. Okay, so it has a 14-inch ska and a blade that is on the bridge of a really short katana or a really long wakizashi. So that is a sword that is really hard to mess up. If you are messing those up, there's a problem. So that's the first problem, is the point of balance. The next problem is the ska. The ska is on their way too tight, to the point that I think that when they put them together, they probably take, and if it's too tight, too tight, take a rubber mallet and smack it on until it goes on. Because it seems like most of the Cheness swords that I've handled have cracked skas. And, that's really the only way possible for that to happen on a sword that's never been used, is if the ska was too tight and basically just, bashed on. So, the balance is bad, and that's something you can't fix. The ska has a poor fit, and that's something that you can fix, but it's going to cost you so much money that on a sword of this price point, it's just not worth it. Now the next problem, and this here really, it's not a huge problem. For me, it's not a deal breaker. The skamaki doesn't alternate, so the handle wrapping is supposed to alternate on any Japanese sword. Now I'll show you on this sword so it's easier to see, but as you can see, the skamaki alternates. It's not all going the same direction. Now what this is for is so that if one of the strings gets cut in the heat of battle, the whole ska isn't going to come unwrapped. Of course, nowadays, as a modern practitioner, that doesn't matter as much because, generally speaking, we're not using our swords for combat. But still, that's something that, it's another mistake they are making. Now, one good thing is that the ska is well wrapped. On the ones that I've handled, they are tightly wrapped. It's a good skamaki. They wrap it tight, but it doesn't alternate. So that's one thing that helps with it, is at least it's tight. But it's kind of aggravating that they take the time to make sure that the handle is wrapped good and tight, but doesn't alternate. Now another thing is the fittings. The fittings, the Minuki and the Seppa, are really cheap. Now these are things, once again, that on a decent sword, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. These are things that it's not going to make or break the sword. Cheap Seppa, cheap Minuki, even the cheap ones are going to serve their function. Also, the ray skin isn't real, it's fake. Now once again, on a decent sword, not as big a deal, but when you're talking about all these problems, now the problems start piling, one on top of the other. Next problem, the saya finish is not great on these. It's just not. It dings easily, it nicks easily, it's just not a very great finish. On the glossy black ones, now if you get one of the speckle finish ones, it's actually pretty durable. But that's a finish that's pretty much always durable. I haven't really seen many saya with a speckle finish that doesn't take some abuse. No finish is going to take, every bit of abuse that you can dish out, but that's a finish that is more forgiving. Now, if that's the situation that for the price point they can't deal with, doing a better finish, then just always use the speckle finish. That's what I would do if it were me. Now, after that, the Kurigatas are really thin. Now here's the Kurigata, and as you can see on this one, it's pretty good size, and this one here is actually horn. Although this isn't a Cheness sword, this is what they are like, thin and wood. So, that's the next problem, is the Kurigatas are so thin that they could potentially break. So, that's not great either. Also, as I mentioned, the Kurigata is made of wood, and so is the Kojiri on it. So the Kojiri is the end of the saya, right here, and it's made of wood, not horn. Horn is what's used on better swords. The Koiguchi, which is the opening of the saya, also isn't made of horn on a Cheness. So, that's the major problems. Now, the good things about a Cheness sword is the Fuchi, which is the band right here on the ska, the Kashiro, which is the pommel, and the Subo, which is the guard, are decent quality. I'm not going to say that they're great, but they're decent. The Sagio is pretty decent quality. So, you may be asking now, so what swords then are good to go if you are looking for an Iaito? And I say this, look at a Kashanwei. Kashanweis are much better than Cheness swords. Also, if you're looking for an Iaito, there are other custom makers that aren't too expensive. Ryan Sword is decent for an Iaito, especially for the price point. Their quality can be at times hit or miss. However, normally on Iaitos that I've seen, they do a pretty good job. And, of course, before they even send the sword, you could always just ask them. For example, one time the Fuchi opening wasn't a great shape on a sword that I was working on. Functionally, that's not going to matter. But if that bothers you, you could ask them, hey, take the sword apart, I want to see that, before you send it, hey, could you clean that up? And I'm sure they'd do it. There's been other little things that they do that isn't great. I really wish that they would tighten up their quality control, because if they did, they would be awesome Iaito. And as it is, for the price point, they're actually decent Iaito. And if you know how to repair a sword a little bit, hey, you can get a really good sword for the price. Most Ryan swords that I've handled actually have a better point of balance than a Cheness. And Kashanweis definitely have a better point of balance than a Cheness. So, that's my advice. And, of course, look around. There are other good, reputable makers of, good quality Iaito if you are looking for an Iaito. And if you are looking for a Shinken, then there is definitely many better manufacturers than Cheness. So, that's pretty much it. I hope this was helpful and informative. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'll see you in the next video. See ya!